World Financial Group offers entrepreneurs from all backgrounds the opportunity to start their own business on a level playing field. Dr. Yana Woodhouse, receiving the WCM Wall Street Pioneer Award by the United Black Wall Street of America, Inc., is one of those entrepreneurs.
I see WFG and TFA as a place where African Americans with an entrepreneurial mindset can flourish. And the bonus, we help families and serve the communities across the country.
To learn more about us, go to worldfinancialgroup.com.
We are the sons and daughters of the soul. We are resilient and forever forward-thinking. We ask for nothing else than the opportunity to live and to create the lives that we were meant to live. We want nothing but an equal chance at options and possibilities. The same possibilities and options to live out our potential as our fellow man. We want to be heard, understood, and expressive in our reality. We are the future. We are the creative. We are here.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men wasn't the same. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is now.
Greetings and welcome to another edition of Access Wealth Nation with Dr. Yana B. Woodhouse, giving you that checkup from the neck up, getting your opportunity to become financially literate. Because if you know better, you'll do better. And so today we're, of course, still in Black History Month. It's time for us to build and get together our act to make sure that we become financially literate. It's so important that our community changes up from being the purchasers, buying everything, then the people to make the money work for them. That's where we're heading. And so, of course, here at Access Wealth Nation, which is broadcast on the Soul City Network, and that's powerful because that is a Black-owned network giving information to the community at all times. So we're very thankful for that. We're also on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. And again, this is the year for Harlem Week to be celebrating their 50th anniversary. So there's a lot of activities going on. I hope you'll stay posted and keep listening every Thursday at 6 p.m. We're here to give you as much information as possible, but more so to understand, to get your financial house in order. The key is that if you change your financial literacy, you will change your life. Of course, there's ways of doing that. We have a new ebook, which if any of y'all are interested in receiving the link to the ebook, all you have to do is send me an email at anagenterprisesinc@gmail.com, and I can send you the link. If you're interested in getting the How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker book, that's written by two of my associates, please send us an email. And same thing, the more you read, and these books are short books, we realize people don't like to read a lot. And so therefore we've made it kind of easy for you to be able to read it. It takes maybe about an hour. It took me an hour and 10 minutes. But the key is that that book is so important to getting the fundamentals and foundation to financial literacy. Of course, we realized that by the year 2030, 30 trillion women will have the opportunity to receive funds. That's what's getting ready to happen. So we have the How Money Works for Women's book. Take control or lose it. It is time now for everyone in the community to really pay attention to what's going on in the economy and get your financial house in order. I understand the churches are doing all this, to get your spiritual life in order. I'm all down for that. That's really great. But you need to get your finances in order. So it's important that you pay attention to what's going on and stay tuned here at Access Wealth Nation so that you can also get the opportunity for your checkup from the neck up, which we call a discovery call. Where are you now? And where do you want to be? Okay, sometimes there's a little stretch, but I believe the word can is there and the word can't does not exist. So if you'd like a free financial analysis, all you got to do is call our office, 646-375-2121. That's our main line. And if you would like a checkup from the neck up and have a financial analysis with no obligation, just to see that you have a plan, because if you have a plan, then you're not planning to fail. But if you don't have a plan, you might be planning to fail. So therefore, with this is at any point you want that free financial analysis, you can. The lines are usually very busy at the office. It is tax season. And this is a time when people, my first group, matter of fact, today was the day that all of those who have earned income credit should have received their money. Now the question is what you're going to do with it. Do you take the money? You got child credit. That's like $2,000. Don't you think you could take that and put something away for your child? A little bit every year. Also, think about what refunds really are. And, I have no problems pushing the fact that a refund is not good. That means you left all this money on the table for 12 months. And then you decided that you were going with no interest, and then you're going to go get it. And then you go and pay extra money, to get it faster. We got to change our mindset, really, because that makes no sense. You could have kept that money in your pocket, but they give us on the TV all this stuff about refund. And if we don't get enough, we don't think it's right. So you gave somebody too much money and you got it back and you want to get as much as possible back. Well, you could have kept it yourself. Just think about it. But that being said, we have had some major issues in our community as far as getting started, and one of them has to be with credit. It is a major issue going on in our community. And we do some pretty bad things, when it comes to credit. We even use our own children's social security number when we've worn our own out. We need so much to be able to get ourselves in order. So again, if you have any questions, now tonight we have a credit specialist, another brother from another mother, but he is phenomenal in the world of credit. And so if you have questions, please pose it. If you have questions for me, please pose it. Also, just to let you know that this week, I know this is time sensitive for WHCR, but for the audience, please note that next Thursday at the Wealth Wave Learning Center, which is my office, is at 116 West 23rd Street on the 5th floor. And we are having what we call the answer to the wealth crisis. And so if you're interested in attending, it's at 7 o'clock. We ask you to get there by 6:30 because it will fill up. And there will be a registration for the event. It's https:// thewealthcrisis.eventbrite.com. Just wanted to throw that at you as an extra little bonus. We will be dealing with some of the powerful things to stamp out financial literacy, because that's what the mission is. Also, on this weekend, the Harlem Fine Arts group is at the Glass House, I believe it is, and I'm sure the producers can help me with that. But with the Glass House, they're having an event featuring the artists in our community, and also they are giving tribute on Saturday to Black doctors, and on Sunday, Blacks in Finance. Finally, people are talking about the people who are in the financial world. And I have the honor to be the keynote speaker for the event on Sunday. Come on out. If you want more information, just you can dial 646-375-2121, and we'll be glad to give you any information on it. It is so powerful when we get together and we work towards our community and get information and support each other, especially those in business. But back to my guest today. We are going to be talking about credit. There's a lot of stuff going on. Interest rates have changed, all sorts of things. So with no further ado, I'd like to bring on the Dress Down CEO. And you know, when you got credit problems, you need to call on Tyrone Glover from Leverage Your Credit. So I'd like to welcome Highly, I know.
Yana, it is such a pleasure.
It is such greatness to have you. You know, the major issue and things that have stopped our people from moving forward is the lack of knowledge, of course, but also doing the wrong thing. You know, somebody, like I said, I'm going to create a t-shirt that says, I'm in search of somebody, because I need to kick somebody's butt, because somebody told folks something and they did it, and now they're in trouble. You know, that's one of those serious things. So Tyrone, first, give the audience a little introduction of, I know I did my little thing because I tell you got to call on Tyrone, but please just tell them a little bit about you and how did you get into the world of credit? Because that's a wonderful story.
Thank you so much. As always, Yana, it is such a pleasure to be in the midst of greatness. I mean, you and your accomplishments and your accolades stretch beyond even the little bit that I've done. And I am so grateful to always be a part of what you deliver to our communities of color. My name is Tyrone Glover. Yes, I am the Dress Down CEO. I've been in suits all my life for the past 30 years, thinking that I was going to do it in that world, that side of our understanding of go to school, get that diploma, go to college, get that degree, and then head out into the world and start working. So that's the route I went, the conventional route. And I found out at some time that conventional route does a lot of harm because, as you so eloquently stated earlier, is we get caught up in some of these things that grandma had done or great grandma had done or auntie and uncle and things of that nature. And then we find ourselves not necessarily following that path of financial stability. So it took me to go through a lot of the ups and downs, those ebbs and flows. And then I finally started to realize that, wait a minute, credit is not a roller coaster. It should be a rocket. And to dive deeper into that, that's exactly what I did. I dove deeper into it to find out what were some of the systemic issues that were holding our people down. And number one is education. We just don't have enough in our communities to empower our people to want to go out there to learn more about the number one asset building tool. The number one asset building tool is credit. It's credit. And for us not to have this understanding, again, I'm not faulting anyone. Not faulting anyone. I'm faulting a system that was designed to keep a certain percentage of the population without. And it's never too late. It wasn't too late for me to now be someone who can speak this eloquently and articulately to not just our people, but those who are the policymakers, to let them know, hey, wait a minute, we're changing the narrative. You're not going to keep constantly looking at us as being the problem when we are the solution, not just to our own credit mishaps, but also this nation's credit mishaps. So I am always grateful to be able to share that love and that understanding. And please, I'm looking forward to the questions tonight from you, also from the guests. Let's do this. Not only is this a pivotal year for an election, but it's a pivotal year for us to equally find out what can we do more to make sure that our financial situations are stable so that our political situations become more, it's a good word to use, more apparent to those who think that our vote doesn't matter. Our vote
that
matters.
We're pawns in the game as opposed to being the kings and queens that we are.
Say it again, please. Say it again.
That's it. The kings and queens. That's the whole thing with the idea of credit. There's so much so much damage. I mean, one of our associates, Sharon Lecter, worked with the administration, I believe it was with the Bush administration, to stop these credit card companies from going to the high schools and getting these children, because they're 18, but they're still children, but getting them to sign up for credit cards. So she had that legislation put through, but it's just not being enforced as well. It is being enforced in certain states, like her home state of Arizona, but it's not being enforced, and especially in our community. We see credit, and our knowledge is so limited. I never thought that people would really be this limited, but I had a young lady speak to me, and she had gotten into great credit debt, deep credit. And it started off with that credit card when she graduated from high school. And so I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, I got a credit card. They gave me $1,000 and I used it for my books. They told me I could use it for school. So I did. The only problem is I didn't pay it back because I didn't think I had to. See, that's why 21 states in the United States have financial literacy in their curriculum. Unfortunately, it's the wrong stuff. It's like how to balance a checkbook. Someone tell me who got a checkbook these days. I have a checkbook. I don't use it much. But those are the things that they teach. They may teach a little bit about budget, but it's nothing to do with all the things, what these terms mean. And I do understand that our industry speaks a different language. And so my question to you is, how do we catch these people beforehand? I know that you have a certain program that you're running, plus you have a show on the Soul City Network, which is awesome, at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, plug. But what can we do to get to, number one, the young folks, but then we also have to get to the adults, because the adults are giving mixed messages.
Well, there was a lot there. I'm gonna try to unpack all of that and keep it under a minute and two, because I know we want to keep this program moving in that fashion that we always do. So the first thing that you said was the narrative. We have to change the narrative. The language that we speak is not the household language of African Americans or even Hispanics, for that matter, and also poor white folks. It's okay. All right. The narrative, those of us who understand that we have done what we needed to do to get better at things, we're still following a playbook from those who say, oh, you're a deadbeat. Oh, you couldn't do this, and so forth and so on. COVID proved, and even prior to COVID, a lot of the government shutdowns proved that people were not sufficiently where they need to have been, because of some of them who worked for the United States government were one paycheck away from being either homeless or close to that mortgage getting pulled. And not necessarily say that it would have harmed them, but again, not having that narrative change. So we need to start owning up, number one, to what we've done. 10% of what we need to own up to is our responsibility, that if we have not met our obligations, own up to it. Stop running from them phone calls. Stop running from those letters that come in the mail. That's perfectly fine. But I'm going to surprise everybody here with this staggering number. 90% of most of our credit mishaps is due to an industry that is so flawed in every possible way known to man.
Well, what
so
are
it has
some of the ways?
One of the ways is that when it ends up into something called a wage garnishment, or you're dealing with a court situation that comes from a credit card that you, again, chose not to. Again, let me rephrase that. Not chose, but due to whatever the circumstance may have been that prevented you from meeting your contractual obligation. That could end up in court. Then we have these lawyers and judges who they can say whatever they want to say. I've been in front of many of them, and one even told me I don't get confused because I'm a judge. And I was like, ooh, well, you must know a lot more about finances than I do. But anyway, I had to correct that situation. But when it ends up in a court, and those are the things that could be prevented because of the narrative, not being afraid to answer the phone call. If you know you were in a contractual obligation with Credit One or Capital One or whoever the financial entity is, not having them see you as a deadbeat, not having third parties now call you because that debt now has been sold to a third party. A lot of people don't understand that they don't even owe, and this is something that is today not being talked about. You do not owe a third party, so there should be no harm to your credit when it comes to a third party. But unfortunately, we allow for the first party who already collected, because of it, as you know, as a tax person, when you have a negative debt, meaning a debt that you have not, is worthlessness. And that worthlessness falls into a category, if you're a business, that you can write off. And a lot of us get hampered by that understanding, and it ends up on our credit report moving into another negative item. Two, the other part that you also brought up is that it needs to be more in our academic settings. The children are missing out. I keep asking myself, and I keep asking all of those who are, much higher in positions than we are, that how is it that you remove such a vital piece of our growth as an adult when you took out financial literacy, financial intelligence out of the K through 12 preparatory stage? And also equally today, they don't even have it in college in the manner in which you would think. And I would think, even taking it one more step further, why don't employers attempt to make sure that all their employees are financially literate when it comes to, again, when it comes to their money, they'll fire you in a heartbeat if you come up a penny short. But when it comes to your money, because you don't even really know how to check your earnings statements to make sure that you even are on point, they don't care. So this is a trickle-down effect that we need to be talking more about in our communities, and we need to highlight some of the areas in which our people struggle. And credit is definitely one of those critical economic mobilities that could create financial stability in our neighborhoods. And that was just two. There's host.
You made some real good statements about this, and that's the whole thing. Is we do need the knowledge. We need to be active. The other part is that it seems like the system is set up just to put you in a bubble, but the thing is that nobody twisted your arm. Number one. Number two is that how do we engage folks to at least listen? I know you have your events on Saturday in Yonkers, and what time is that on in
those events?
Yes,
those events are held. Oh, I'm sorry.
You got a flyer.
Wait, I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, my apologies. Those events are Saturdays at 1:00. Saturdays at 1:00, and they're open to the public, all free. All this information is free, because I think you have a snazzy little saying, something about free. And it's all about just making sure that they know what we should be doing. Nothing is too late. Nothing.
And where is it located?
It is at the Yonkers Public Library here on Larkin Avenue, or Larkin Plaza here in Yonkers, right from the train station. So, I mean, every bus pretty much travels right around there. So if it's an issue with getting there through bus, if you live in Yonkers, not a problem. If you live outside of Yonkers, it's right directly across from the train station. So, I mean, it's a 20-minute, 30-minute, no matter which direction you're coming from, north or south. And even we're hoping to be able to broadcast this out into more of the libraries across, because they're all connected to some degree. But credit, I mean, we really need, and we got to change again, narrative. We do not fix credit. Credit is a behavior. You learn these things from home. You watch and you pick up the same things that you see when you start. Again, your understanding of becoming a decent person starts in that household. And if mom and dad, grandma, grandpa, whomever it may be that you spend the most of your time with, understand that we have to develop these skills, it's only going to set the pathway for us to create what we want, which is generational wealth. That's really the pathway to all of what we talk about in the financial realm, is generational wealth. How do we create it? How do we make sure that we're not leaving a legacy of debt?
Right. Instead of benefits.
Exactly.
Instead of benefits, we leave debt. So we
credit is
different. One of the things that you brought up, though, was the fact that you don't have to pay a third-party purchaser of your credit. But how do you know, number one, that the person that it's been purchased? And then if you talk to them, because you said keep the communication going, but if you talk to them, doesn't that open up the door that they can now, have you agreed to be with them or work with them?
I love it. Thank you. That was an excellent way of opening that doorway. Yes, you can talk to them. The question is, how do you talk to them? First of all, if you got a phone call from somebody, because the original creditor's not reaching out to you anymore. I can tell you that right now. They've already closed down their collections departments. They don't have those anymore because that's a cost savings mechanism. If I don't have to have that extra department staffed with hundreds of people that are trying to collect debt from consumers that I have ran into some financial issues, why am I going to have that body there? So I might as well establish or create, which they did, a third-party mechanism, which is those debt collectors, which is those law firms now that are getting into the racket of, it's $1 trillion industry. So why not? Why not? If I could get into it, I definitely would. And I'm in it in a different capacity, but the capacity of helping consumers navigate through some of the simplicities, and some of them could be strenuous and arduous, but that comes from us because we get overwhelmed at language. We get overwhelmed at being pushed in certain corners, and then we come out swinging versus come out thinking more strategically about how to manage that. So yes, you don't owe a third party because of the fact that they purchased that debt. The first party gave you time frames. 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. These are your normal statement cycles that come to you. And that company after 30 days can say, hey, you know what? We don't want to continue with this arduous back and forth. So once they write it off, it's a done deal. They are now held to a tax liability that's going to be given back to them. It's in the, if I'm not mistaken, bad debt deductions. If one looks up that, you'll be able to see. And that's why I said earlier, the worthlessness of that debt. And
but then if they write it off, then don't you have to claim it as income?
If they force you to do that, you don't necessarily have to claim that as income. Why is it being claimed as income? Because it's not really income. What it is an agreement between two parties that you will meet a certain obligation of paying them back. If it's income, and this is where I can ask you, if it's income, then that means I would have had to have worked for that income. That's how I understand.
Or you received it. See, or where they get you is that you received something.
Understand.
And therefore you didn't really pay for it.
Got you.
And so then now the original creditor is saying, okay, I didn't get paid for this, even though they did. They probably did.
There's the sticky point right there. Even though they did. Now, what would make it more feasible in my mind would be that then they would have to validate the actual loss that they took. Okay, so there's a difference there. They say they gave you $10,000, and of that $10,000, I only received back from you, again, say hypothetical situation where I only received I only received one. So they can turn around and they can write off that $9,000 loss that is to their business.
Yes.
But say the government said, okay, we understand it, and that loss as well as profit works the same way. If I make a profit, I have to pay taxes on it. If I make a loss, that's why the government said, we don't want you to be harmed by your losses. So we're going to put this clause in there that protects you should you run up against whatever the circumstance may be. If you're in a Walmart and you knock over a huge display, not saying you, but say it falls over, there has to be something there to cover that loss. Same thing with financial obligations, same thing. There has to be something there that's going to protect the business from that loss. So they write it off. The government says, okay, we're going to give you back 99% of that loss. They haven't felt any loss then, but then they leave it on your credit report stating the original amount that was actually created the loss. That's fraud. That's false. They can't do that. Legally, they can if nobody challenges it. Because in their eyes, also in the court's eyes, is that, there's still $10,000 here that hasn't been paid back. So they're not fully disclosing their actual loss. And that's the part that I'm arguing. If you got back 99%, who do we owe? We owe the government. We don't owe the original creditor because the original creditor was able to write off that loss. That's the argument that I've been challenging individuals with going to the courts if they find themselves in a garnishment or some type of legal dispute with someone. That's the argument that has been very successful. And the reason why it's been very successful is because individuals who think more strategically, as I do, think about both elements. They say, hey, wait a minute, you're right. If I can make a profit and have to pay taxes on it, and I can turn around and be subjected to a loss in whichever that loss comes, well, I can write that loss off. I should only have to disclose what's valid as left over. And then if anyone, meaning a consumer, if anyone owes anyone, the consumer would owe the government for giving that original creditor that money back, or the original. And here's where another sticky point, the original creditor doesn't necessarily have to charge that off. They can renegotiate with a consumer. So the choice is theirs to go about whichever direction that they go.
That's interesting because I know from a tax point of view, when a client gets a 1099-C, which is a cancellation of debt, there are some things that can be, if you weren't able to pay the debt, obviously you're not solvent enough to pay this debt, which is the income on it. And so there are things that an accountant can do to eradicate that 1099-C. But sometimes it's exorbitant, it's large, like a house. And then at that point, it becomes a bit difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But that's where, again, a lot of the credit card debts are 10, 15, 20. They're not in that upper echelon of hundreds of thousands of dollars. I even had a consumer, again, because it was sold to a third party. And you brought up, how do they know it's sold to a third party? As I said, the first party, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Discover, they're writing that stuff off. Why are they writing it off? Because they have investors. Every day they're looking for new investors, and they can't go to a new investor and say, I got millions and millions of dollars on my books as bad debt. That investor's going to look at them and be like, well, no, we're not giving you no more money. You must be out of your mind. So what do they have to do? They have to sell off that debt, not individually. They sell it off in bulks and packages. So once it reaches a third party, they're fishing. They're going to cast out that line. They're going to send you a couple of letters. They might send you some emails now that we're using technology. They might do all the means of trying to get in touch with you, but that's a fishing expedition. So overall, big picture, you don't owe a third party. Legally, by all means, you should always uphold to your obligations. No question about it. But due to multiple incidences that we've already gone over, not just in this show, but even on your previous shows and on my shows, there could be medical expenses. There could be so many things that forces a person to end up in a situation where their credit gets harmed. But as I said, 90% of what is harming consumers is due to the fact that we have a system that has been designed to keep 60 to 70% of the overall population in financial hardship. And it's our duty now to make sure that we understand what we have to do. Credit is a building tool. And that's the only financial avenue or mechanism that you have to build is credit.
So back to this, if you don't owe them, how
Mhm.
do you combat? I mean, years ago, and I don't know if it still exists, is
Mhm.
this that you could do a cease and desist, prove that I have a contract with you.
Well, the
Is
cease and
that
desist
still in effect?
The cease and desist is more to the fact of phone calls. So if you're getting calls, and I know the government has stepped in because we used to get some horrifying calls. You're going to jail and they're going to come to your place of work and they're going to kidnap your kids. And, they were just saying some off the wall mobster type stuff. So the government did step in and cease that. The government also stepped in and made sure that the interest rates weren't at 34%. They used to be as high as 34% on your credit cards. They're now down to, again, I can't even say reasonable because I know a lot more about how money works as you do. Even 28% is astronomical.
Rule of 72 reverse.
Astronomical. So the way that you combat that is when you understand what I just said. If you got into a hardship due to your credit card and you're not receiving your statements any longer, that's number one. You're not receiving them any longer. And then you start getting phone calls from third parties. The first way to get around that is to say, I am a individual, not the individual. All right. Because if you looked up your name, Dr. Yana B, I'm sure you probably wouldn't find a lot of Dr. Yana B's. But if you looked up Yana B Woodhouse, you'd probably find a couple of other Yana B Woodhouse. I looked up my own name. I was surprised that there's more similarities with my name than it is me, the actual individual. So that's one way. You got to make sure that you know that this is a third party and I'm going to address them with I am a individual, not the individual. Because as soon as I say the individual, what's the first thing that comes out of your mouth? Even before these calls are being,
got you.
Yep. And these calls are being recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. And that's also for a legal purpose. Because then they can go into court after they got the individual that they think they have. Because as I said, the first party, the original creditor, is not selling these one-offs. They don't make any money off of one-offs. They make the money off selling them in bulks, millions and tens of millions of dollars. And then the individual law firms, individual collection companies can go in there and they can buy these piece by piece by piece by piece. It's a commodity, just like oil, just like orange juice, just like sugar, just like steel. It is a commodity, and we are the biggest participants in this overall understanding of credit. And we just need to get smarter, wiser, savvier, more brilliant to our financial understanding.
Okay, got another question. What about being able to take your credit? Okay, you built up a credit. You mentioned the interest rates. So you got something at 20, 28%, good God, 9%, whatever the interest rate is. But there's a card that says we will take that debt and we will give you 12 months of zero interest. What's that kind of situation? Is that a good situation to do? Is it? I know some people who do jump, moving their credit, but what is that? What's that?
If you have the ability to actually go to an individual, maybe a credit card company, and again, negotiate. That's what credit contracts are. They're negotiations. You get into it by negotiating, saying, I'm agreed to this. And after a certain time frame, it's like a relationship, a love relationship. Would you want to, as a individual, be in a relationship with somebody, and all they did is came into the house and gave you a peck on the cheek, just a little peck on the cheek, and you're in a full-on relationship? Peck on the cheek every single day. That's what these relationships are. Your credit card company won't give you the whole, oh, baby, I love you so much type of a relationship. They're just going to constantly keep giving you that peck on the cheek. So there's going to be a little bit of imbalance there. And my overall point is that even though we still have to make sure that we know how to negotiate. If you got a percentage that's too high, go back and say, hey, can you lower this? If you are able to, as you said, jump around from offer to offer to offer to offer to offer to offer, by all means. If I can keep it at zero, why would I not want to keep it at zero? That means I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to get it to that zero, but that's okay. And we should be looking at balancing everything in that same understanding. No credit card should have these ups and downs, meaning you have one credit card that got 28, you got another credit card that got 13, another credit card that got 5, another credit card that got 3. No, it's all based off of your credit score. So we as a consumer also have to get better. If say you got a 799 or 805 and you're still paying 28%, as you said when you first started, you need to call Tyrone. If you are someone who has 750 and the same thing, you're paying in that double digit, pick up that phone, because your credit score is your leverage and it's your negotiation power. And if you've been with somebody for 15, 20 years, that's that relationship that I was just talking about. If I'm with somebody for 15, 20 years and all I got was a kiss on the cheek, that would not be the relationship that I want to be in.
So the kiss on the cheek. So you want to get the full-blown love. So to
Why
get
not?
Full-blown love, you got to talk. You got to get involved. Is that it?
Oh, what is it? What is that saying? The squeaky wheel gets the grease and closed mouths don't get fed. Same thing. Same thing. You have to do the exact same thing with your credit card company. And now that they have algorithms, they're going off of a lot of our behavior. So it goes back to why I said own up to just our 10%. We didn't know. The behavior of the past is now 90% being used against us. So now that we know, we got to tell the system, that's not us. That's how we previously operated. But the chances that were given to us back then were not balanced. And they have their own history to go back off of and take a look at. We're now talking about reparations. And I just saw something earlier today in reference to that. There's a documentary by, it's going to show up on MSNBC. I can't remember the presenters, Tremaine. He does all of those African-American related programming, but he's got one coming up on this Saturday. And I was like, wow, I wish I could remember it fully in its entirety as to what, but it's again, something on MSNBC pertaining to reparations. But how does this tie into credit? Again, if we knew what we knew back then, we probably would not be in these financial constraints that we are in now. But now that we know, now that you're getting the information from people who look just like you, maybe we should start taking heed and going, hey, you know what? Maybe not. My brother man is not out just for himself. Maybe my brother man does want to help his fellow brothering and sistering. And that's the narrative that I really want to get out there. We need to start looking at each other saying, okay, am I really doing enough? Mm-hmm. I'm someone who doesn't have it all as far as this is concerned, but that knowledge, that understanding, that passion. And a lot of times we get it confused because we think when somebody's speaking at a larger or more of a, I can't believe you're yelling at me. That's not yelling. That's passion. And we got to get better, obviously, at conveying that as well. That's even when we're talking to those on the other end, they're not saying it directly, you deadbeat, but they are insinuating something like that, all because you couldn't meet a contractual obligation.
Well, with that said, is that, of course, they call on Tyrone, but they got to be able to understand even what their interest rates are, because a lot of times I meet people and do financial needs analysis and they don't even know where to look, even though I got to give credit to President Obama, who made it so that if you pay the minimum, this is how long you're in debt. If you pay a little bit more, you'll come out. It may take a little longer. But I have had clients that have done what, I heard you tell them to do, which was to call the credit card company and request a lower rate. But the most that the credit card company has done is like 2%, 1%, 2%. So how do you get them to bring it down?
Well, that's another great, fantastic question. And again, it goes right back to negotiation. It goes back to what I love to use similarities in our own relationships. Now, you wouldn't just kick your mate to the curb, obviously. No, there would be some situations or maybe concerns within that relationship. So if there are the same things within your credit card, if you get that first promotional and they give you the, say, 2%, again, after a certain time frame, go back to them. Balance it out with how much am I spending versus how much am I getting back in return. It goes back to what we love to talk about in the financial world, ROI. what is my return on my investment? Is it worth the hassle of even having this credit card? And yes, interest, so important. I'm again going right back to what I said earlier. K through 12 preparation, K through 12. If we can teach them algebra and statistics and calculus, then we can definitely teach them about how to make sure that interest is not harming them, but helping them. Albert Einstein, I believe, said the compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. You either are paying it or you're receiving it. And I would love to be on the receiving side of compound interest. We don't know enough. So this is the reason why we are going to constantly find ourselves behind the eight ball. You have to reach out.
So
you reach out once, you reach out twice, you reach out there. And then my apologies, I didn't mean to cut you off. But if it doesn't go your way, then that's time for you to be saying, hey, it's time to jump ship. It's time to go somewhere else. Find a better one. And that's where you'll probably get those promotionals where it says 0 for 24 months, 0. And that's probably be even a better way than sit to negotiate with somebody who's just going to be so dead set against not. And the percentage of how many people do it versus the percentage of how many people don't, you're probably going to end up getting what you want because you took the necessary, you went the necessary route to get that. Most people won't do it. So guess what? If we had more people do it, now I could probably see the pushback. But onesies and twosies, that could help probably at least millions within the Black American community. Why not?
Every little bit counts. I remember years ago when I first started in the industry, we used to say 2% makes a difference. The key is that you have to stay on it. And like you're saying is that it becomes a job in itself or a business where someone can come and work with you because you got yourself in this. Okay, take your tooth fairy money. Well, the tooth fairy money has gone up a bit because I just heard one of my cousins is getting a tooth, the tooth fairy. Now, when I was coming up, 25 cents was good. Now they're getting like $5 for that tooth. Inflation has taken place,
Yes,
in reverse.
Yes, it is.
So it put it in an investment account so you are making money on your money before you start kindergarten. Well, that's one of the things you done hit, Leslie. You done hit me because I say in our community, we have this thing, we have these elaborate baby showers. I mean, elaborate, And then what happens is they buy stuff and the child can't even fit it or after a month out. But instead, if we all got together for that child and said, who's got the first $25 or $30 for this child? There's a thing we have in the invest in our company we call Today's Child, Tomorrow's Millionaire. And in the book, it talks about the $1 million baby, putting money away. Like you said, Leslie, that tooth fairy money, make it work. And while you're making it work, let that child understand and be involved in that growth and that money. I tell folks, if you're going to take your child to Disney, you better have some Disney stock.
There it is.
So that the child can see that they're assisting. If you go to Target or some of these other companies, that get your money, Macy's, have a part of that. Have a part of it. Show them that they're in, okay, and push gifts and a whole bunch of ting yang with hootenannies sprinkled with some ladies daddy. Oh, okay. So you got a whole little thing going on. But that's true. I have gone during the time when I had friends who were having children. I would go to the baby shower and I would bring not one gift. I had $250 and I said, who's going to join me in this child's future? And then we had cricket. But they buy them the little tiny baby Jordans. They
just as expensive.
And what are you doing at that point when you're doing that? Is that you're planting in that child's surroundings that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to buy,
We like stuff instead of stock. And that's another
Yeah.
portion in our unfortunate demise when it comes to how we understand money. And I
That's
love
true.
what Leslie's questions, her comments and questions are. But for me, I'm going to always go back to there's levels. There's levels of. We don't have enough generated in our communities as far as work is concerned, meaning our wages. So we are always in the behind the eight ball when it comes to our wages. Federally, the minimum wage is still $7.25. Yes, some states have raised it.
Some have
Some
gone up.
employers have also done their part as well, which is 18, 19, 20, and they're now evaluating whether or not you need a college degree or if you're someone who could just use your experience to be qualified for the promotions or things of that level. But overall, tying it into credit is that one building platform that is being abused by those who are offering it, but not necessarily given to those who, again, require now a second chance.
And I
Yes,
know Leslie put up about the savings bonds, and years ago that worked. But when savings bonds are generating approximately 0.5% to 1%, 25 years used to be the time when they would, mature.
Mhm.
It's like 50 years. It's really difficult. There are things that are out here, uniform gift to minors. There's so many different things that you can do. And so we are, right, we're not pooling what we do have. We have a lot. We have trillions of dollars that leave our community on a consistent basis. And we don't have anything for it to be filtered into. If you're going to, I'm still at a pet peeve that we still go to H&M, we still go to Denny's, we buy Tommy Hilfiger, and they have disrespected us. And all we do is yell, and I call it verbal masturbating, because you get off on talking about how bad it was, and then you still go. So, we got, like you said, we've got to pull together. We got another thing, we got to trust.
Yes.
You could, if you opened up, I've had folks who wanted to open up an account for a child that was born. They wanted to open up an insurance policy to build it tax deferred and then grow money tax free. But the thing is, someone's got to release that child's social security number. And it is like, even for the grandmother, they're not going to give it. But they will use that social security card to pay their cell phone.
Right.
Open up a cell phone account. We have got to change. If I could find some young person who could create that pill that would give us a lobotomy, that we would love each other and trust each other so that we can build. Black Wall Street, all the 127 of them was proof that we can work. There's a poet, Qasem Allah, and he has a poem says, I wish we would bring back segregation. And I kind of understand what he's saying, because in the need, we come together. When they come to us with things that aren't beneficial for our community, we come together. But then we get amnesia and we stop, or convenience. We do a lot for convenience, and we got to make a difference. It is so important. It is hard to get our community to listen. And then once they listen, I say knowledge is power, but the action is the necessity. If we pull together, if we group together, years ago, and I remember they still do it from the Caribbean side. They do the susu. I never agreed with it. Why? Because I said, you ain't getting no interest. That's like the vacation clubs in the bank. I said, the bank gets to hold the money and you get nothing but the money back. Okay, you could do that on your own if you had a little discipline. But that's the same thing that we need to do when it comes down to our credit. We can't just keep blaming folks that we are buying and then we take cash advances. And no, We need to have some discipline. And then you can strategically pay down. And that's where, even with us, with Anaj Enterprises and Wealth Wave, what we do is that we strategically put a plan together, and you got to follow it. And then when you have that plan, you go to Tyrone to show how you're getting your credit score higher, because that's important. You can't even get a good apartment with a bad credit score.
You can barely, again, jobs. I'm glad that they took it out of their work qualifications to have a high credit score. So that was one thing, again, we can attribute to the Obama administration. We could also attribute that you said earlier that they now have to put, if you just paying the minimum. We can also attribute to the fact that they have now the CFPB, which is the Consumer Financial Protections Bureau, to do what it needs to do. So there has been a lot of protections that have been put there to help. But what we need to do, as you just said, more trust, less anger, less frustration, less getting whatever it is that causes us to blow up at these individuals, to where they did what they needed to do because they got us to blow up at them. And then what did we do? We ended up putting it off. So we have to know a lot more about us first and foremost, and then we can take on the necessary. And again, if we do not, at the end of my emails all the time, they all say it's okay to ask for help, because it is okay to ask for help. And we need to just get out of our own way. But I want to make this last point is that, one, you have to check your credit on a regular basis, right? Just like you walk out of that house, if you forgot that cell phone, you'd run right back in there and get it because it's now part of your anatomy. We have to make
That's a good point. I just saw it. Leslie's on fire. How many people do you know that could loan you $2,000 at 3 a.m.? Yeah. Well, if you don't know at least 5, you need to get new friends. You need to get new friends. What you're saying is that our mindset is so important. And what you do is so powerful when it comes down to helping people with their credit situation, understanding their credit situation, and then understanding how that relates to the things that they need and they want. There's two different worlds there. There are, and that's the key to what we're talking about today. But we need to, when we talk about Black History Month,
yes,
we got to look at it this way. It should be a month not of going to stores and getting sales. I hate the fact that they made Martin Luther King's birthday a holiday. Why? Because what do we do on it? We look for the sales. We spend instead of doing things that can enhance our community. The same thing with what we're doing in bringing financial literacy through Access Wealth Nation, through the Soul City Network. That's what we're doing, is trying to get y'all to do things right. So how many people do you know that have an $800 credit score, 750, 700? How long will it take you to get out of debt? Those
are 808 and 750. I know quite a few people, but unfortunately, they're not my African Americans, nor are they my Hispanic, nor are they the marginalized communities. And that can include whites, Asians, as well as Middle Eastern as well. The circumstances, the credit score. I love the fact that we want individuals to have these high credit scores, and I want them to also get to those high credit scores. They can. We just have, again, the mindset. 1, you have to check your credit on a regular basis. 2, you have to challenge anything that's on those credit reports. And 3, you have to now diversify your expenses, meaning allocate your credit to certain activities. You do those things, you'll watch your credit, pay everything now in 1 week versus paying it out through over the course of a whole entire month. The reporting piece is what's harming individuals. That's why I say go back to it's the industry. The industry is still going to keep moving the goalposts. We can keep talking about what we're talking about, but the industry is still going to keep moving the goalposts until we just tell the industry, not with us, this consumer, not with us. And like you said, we can get segregated. I don't mind. When it comes to that part of our money being back in our neighborhoods like it should be, 6 hours versus 21 days, that's a problem. And what I mean by that, 6 hours is how long our money stays in our communities versus in some of the other ethnic groups that I mentioned, that's 21 days. everybody's touching it in 21 days. 6 hours, it's in and out.
That's true. And Leslie's right. If you're going to get a return, invest it yearly. If you don't get a refund, because a refund, again, it is just your money coming back to you. You could have done that month to month. I never forget there was a commercial where Larry was standing up on the table and he had gotten a $10,000 refund. And I said, I want to knock Larry off that table because Larry's stupid. Okay. And the reason why he's stupid is that's $833 a month that Larry could have put somewhere or invested it somewhere and made that money work for him. Instead, he gave it to the government and they gave it back with no interest.
No interest.
Who does that? And so we do it, but we got to stop. That's it.
That's it.
Oh, I didn't know the time is going so fast. Oh, my goodness. We're at the end, but thank you. And thank Leslie for her statements and questions. Also, Tyrone, tell everyone how to contact you.
Yes. Again, Tyrone Glover. I am the CEO of Leverage Credit Recovery right here in Yonkers. You can get in touch with me through the very same name as the company, leveragecreditrecovery@gmail.com. I use something now called Linktree. If you don't know Linktree, go get this product. It's great. It's a tree that layers all of your accomplishments, things that you've done, and people can go back and they can view. See me at the libraries here in Yonkers on Larkin Plaza, right across from the train station. I'm just like Dr. Yana B about making sure that our people have. She's been doing and trailblazing this for so long, and I'm just grateful to be able to put my little foot in those large shoes that she's already created for us. And just thank you so much. Stay healthy, stay blessed, and I can't wait to see you this Thursday coming up and be part of your event that you're going to be doing here at your office.
I am so glad. Yes, and I hope people do come out to the event. It's definitely the wealth crisis. It's the crisis and the answer. And we'll be putting some more stuff out there. I know some people are coming, and Leslie, you should think about coming if you're not already in the financial service industry. You got the right industry. Oh, there it is.
There it is. She's a colleague. She's a teacher of a teacher friend of mine, and she's just a great person when it comes to a great person overall. She just someone who's equally as passionate, and she wants to see our community thrive.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you're ever interested in coming into financial service, and I'm looking for, as a closing for myself, I am looking to mentor some people in this industry. It's so important. And so definitely thank you, Tyrone, for everything that you do and how wonderful it is to have you out here on this mission along with me. And thank you for being on Access Wealth Nation. Thank you all for listening at Access Wealth Nation, and realize that we are on the Soul City Network. Tune into Soul City. We're growing by leaps and bounds and making a difference. But it's always important that you have to make sure that you let people know. Tell the story. Tell them about Tyrone's event on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. on the Soul City Network, And so I have an opportunity for you. When people say that. But anyway, I say thank you all, and you'll have a good night.
She was told that she couldn't play with the boys. She was told that they were too big, too rough, too strong. She was told to give up her dreams and move on. She was told to just be pretty, be quiet, be a lady. She was told that women had to stay on their side of the court, stay in your lane. Playing and competing with men was insane. She was told that men and women would never be equal. Dreaming like that would only be linked to your mind, to your soul. She never listened. She knew that their thinking was old. She is magic. She is the definition of spirit. She is what champions are made of. She is